Hold on.
Yeah, no problem.
We should be live right now. Yep,
Okay,
we're live.
wow, okay. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, hold on.
Good morning, Radley.
Yeah. All right. Well,
is that correctly pronounced, Radrey or Radley?
Radley, that's fine. You can call me whatever you want. I guess it all depends on if I answer you or not.
Radrey, something like that.
Let me begin the intro. Welcome to another edition. What's that? I'm going to begin the. I'm going to do the intro. I always screw up this intro. All right. Welcome to another edition of Why Come Japan. I'm your host, Mr. Radrey, where I talk to creatives inside or outside Japan. And today our creative is inside Japan, somewhere in Tokyo, an undisclosed location, I think. Our guest today is filmmaker Karl Neubert, actually my former teacher. Actually, how much can we talk about Temple University on this live stream? Or I guess I should ask, are you comfortable with?
I'm fine, but I'm not speaking on behalf of Temple. That must be
okay.
So I'm just speaking as an individual.
Okay, I see. Well, I guess it's probably going to be impossible to do this interview without talking about Temple University. So, you're having the Temple University Film Festival in a couple of days.
Oh, yeah, right? That's true. On April 12th. It's a Friday. And yes, it's quite nice, actually. So as every year, this is entrance free. And so can I advertise it?
Yeah, so sure. I don't know. I mean,
by students, you know. And it's the best student films of our, present students and alumni and also former works of them. So it's quite a mixture. And it's one evening. It goes very, smooth. And it's fun and will be a lot of food and so on. And it's everything for free. So it's really nice, actually, to go there.
Free sounds good. I like free.
Yeah. So last year we had like almost, 250 or 260, in the audience. So it's quite good.
Okay. I guess I should probably fill in my audience here for a little background, you know, for the show. For the sake of the show, Karl is from Germany. Where in Germany are you from?
I'm from Munich.
Munich, okay. And you came to Japan in, man, how long ago?
1993.
Wow, so you've seen Japan change quite a bit.
Yes, and my first year was in 1998. So when 1988, when I was a student.
Oh, I see.
So I came as a student for 1 year, and then I went back to Germany to graduate, and after graduation, I came back to Japan.
Oh, I see. Okay. What university did you go to in Japan?
In Japan, yes. I went to, yes.
A Japanese university?
Oh, yes, yes.
Really?
Yes, I had to write everything in Japanese. That was a bit challenging, even if I had studied Japanese before I came. But writing reports and so on, that is a different task, and making some artwork in Japanese. And so I went to Musashino Art School, or Musashino Bijutsu Daigaku. And then after that, I went to Nichige, Nihon Geijutsu Daigaku, for like graduate level.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
That must have been quite the challenge, having to like look up everything in Japanese and go back and forth all the time.
Oh, yes. I had like, what's really interesting, I had one course when I went to Nichige, and it was done by film director Toshio Matsumoto, who is famous for Funeral of the Roses. I don't know if you heard about this movie.
Oh, yeah. That's I've heard of that film. It's, what is it? It's kind of a, how would you define that one? That's like a, I guess to quote one of your former classes that I didn't take, you're a gender bender.
Yes, it has related. Yes, it's related to that. No? It's one of the very early entries, and it goes into the Japanese gay scene, and it's like a Oedipus story with featuring Peter, who is like a famous Japanese artist, who is actually also in Kurosawa movie Run. And he, because that's how he self-identifies, but is very feminine and dresses up as a woman all the time. And so it's what is it, kind of a little bit documentary, but also dramatized 60s film. And it's very crazy because in the 60s, you don't have a lot of movies which go into that topic.
Right.
So I took his class, but it was, what it says, I was sitting there and he was talking and talking and talking, and I couldn't understand. And you have to say that I studied about, at that time, I had already graduated from another, actually I had 2 graduations because I had graduated from Munich University in communications and Japanese studies. And after that, I have graduated in visual arts from the Musashino University with an MFA. And then, what is it, I went to Nichige because I wanted also to study about traditional filmmaking. So I went to his class and he was explaining about his movie and I didn't understand a word. So after like how many years I have been in Japan, and then I asked people sitting after the class, I asked like some Japanese students if they can explain me what he said, and they said to me they have no clue either. It was so complicated that even in Japanese, probably it was completely ununderstandable what he's trying to say. He was very smart, but so complex. And I think you can see that also in his film. I think it stayed a cult film because actually the movie is very complex. So he was not focusing just on one topic, which probably this movie would have been a hit because it was like so deep in the transvestite gay scene and so on, that all is very attractive, I think, for its time. But the movie, it has like, sometimes it's what I say, you can see what happens behind the camera, and then the time is jarred and it jumps forward, and then there are interviews. It's a mixture of everything, and it's super complicated. And so was also his lectures. No? He was a very nice guy, but very, very complicated and very philosophical and difficult when he was speaking about his work.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I've seen I didn't finish it. I only watched like the first like 20 minutes of it. And like, it was just so incomprehensible. And I'm like, this is, I mean, like, I'm used to like watching movies like from Ozu, you know, movies like story, like that are long and dry and drawn out. And I mean, dare I say boring. But this one was like, kind of like, what is going on? Number one, it was kind of
exactly.
I mean, I guess this is kind of bad podcast because I'm talking about something nobody can see, but but yeah, that's all I remember from that film. All right, so let me ask you something. Yes. What was the original appeal of coming to Japan originally?
Okay, it had to do with film, but in a different way.
Really?
Yes, because what I say, I wanted to go to Munich Film School. There's a famous film school there, but very strict with what kind of people they take. And I heard much later, because I worked actually with some people from there later on, but of course I didn't make it. So I applied there and I was turned down. I heard later that there's like a catch-22. So you have to have some connection or some internship before you go there, and you should have some experience before you go there. That's what they ask you for. They don't actually do really like people who come from high school and go there directly. So they prefer that they work some kind in the industry. But if you don't have connections, it's kind of hard to get this internship. No? It took me many years actually to get an internship. So I had to study some other stuff before that. And so that brought me into the situation that I had to find something I want to study. I wanted to go so badly to the film school, but they didn't take me. So then I thought, okay, what can I do? And I thought maybe Japanese is kind of like something which could open the doors into the industry, because how many people speak Japanese in that industry? And of course, German people, they were interested in Japanese stuff and also Japanese movies. And maybe there was a bit of an influence, because at the time when I was not sure what I was doing, I was reading a book from Eisenstein, who is a Russian director. And he was explaining about editing, and he was using Japanese characters as samples. And so he explained, okay, the montage, so the movie editing, relates to Japanese characters. If you have like 2 different characters and you create one new character, then there's coming a third meaning. That's what he said about shots. And called intellectual montage. So he was also quite an abstract guy. But I read that and I was quite fascinated. And I thought, Jesus, man, Japanese. I have seen Godzilla movies, né? Which I really liked when I was a kid. And I had the image. There's a movie called Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, an old movie, like maybe that's about 70s or late 60s or something. And I just saw, wow, that beautiful island. And I liked the music in there. So there was like a song and they're fighting Godzilla versus this robot Godzilla. And then there's King Caesar, who is, you might be familiar because if you go in Japan, you see often like two kind of dogs sitting on the doors, which protect, like it's like little statuettes of dogs. That's King Caesar. Ne? So he's like kind of like a big dog who protects the doors ne? In certain temples and so on. You can see.
Well, you see those. You see those like in Okinawa, right?
Exactly, but I had no clue. Ne? I like the seashore and everything. I had no clue. I thought, wow, hey, that is really fantastic. When I was a kid, how Japan would be fantastic. And indeed, I did apply to Ryukyu University for my language studies before I came to Japan. Okay. So I wanted to go to Okinawa, and I really loved it. And I wonder always what would have happened if, if my life would have brought me to Okinawa. The odd thing was that I got a scholarship from Japanese government, and even I had a place in Okinawa because my city is Munich, which is a sister city of Sapporo. They asked me, please go to Hokkaido. And so I went to Hokkaido, which is the opposite. And again, it's cold. I was kind of like really, I wasn't sure if I was happy, when I heard about the decision, but what would you do? I mean, either you go to Ryukyu and you have to pay the whole thing, or you have a scholarship and go for Hokkaido for free. Then, of course, my choice was clearly, since I was not from a rich family or something like that, I was kind of like, okay, so I go to Hokkaido. And then Hokkaido was surprisingly good. That being said, everything like destiny brought me from the Godzilla movie, which was planned to be probably Okinawa. And I'm sure I would completely do a different job these days. Maybe married to some Okinawa woman or something like that. And so on. And probably my life, if you go to Okinawa, I don't think you would ever leave. So the advantage of Hokkaido was that it was really, really nice. But when you be there, it's sometimes quite cold and you think, wow, Tokyo is maybe a better place to go. So it brought me in the end to Tokyo, which later then I realized also, okay, being in Tokyo, actually Hokkaido was much better there. But this is
why? Why was it much better?
Not so many crowds.
Oh, I see. In terms of crowds and clutter,
really friendly, lots of space, nice nature. There's a lot of green. There's mountains. There's sea. It's kind of cold, but you're closer to the sea. Actually, you're very close in Tokyo to the sea, but you never go there. Kind of like, even I was fairly far, but I always remember, so it's easy to go by car. There's not so much traffic jam. So I remember a friend brought me to Ishikari, and that's kind of nice seashore there. And that was maybe like an hour drive or something. It was fairly far, maybe from Tokyo, if you imagine. It might be the distance to, maybe not as far, but maybe Izu or something like that. But in Tokyo, you stuck, first of all, to get out of Tokyo, you stuck like an hour and a half in traffic jam. Before you go anywhere, just to leave Tokyo, it takes more than an hour, I think. And Hokkaido, it was like kind of smooth. There were some jams, I don't want to lie. There were like some jams in the Sapporo city, but it was not so much. And you didn't feel it, and the air was always fresh, the food was very good. Actually, Hokkaido was kind of cool, but it was, of course, also a little bit a different time. Because imagine that I was there in 1988, which is the end of the bubble. And so what I say, after the bubble, of course, Japan has probably changed a lot. So on top of that Tokyo is a completely different place where now everybody wants to go. And it's getting more and more crowded every year. Compared to that, of course, also people had different feel, maybe. Because in the bubble, I mean, people did not worry about money so much. That was really obvious there. So people had like really relaxed, and when you go out and somebody was kind of like interested, oh wow, there's a young foreign student, and let's invite him for a beer or something like that. It was just spontaneously. You got sometimes invited for a beer and so on, and people were really friendly and they were curious. There are not so many foreigners over there. That's another point. I mean, Tokyo, you're one of I don't know how many thousands, but in Hokkaido, what I say, you stuck out. Also, when you met another foreigner, you also immediately kind of probably connected with him, because there's not so many. So you see somebody over the street, and the people come over to you, and say, hi, where are you from? And so on. You make a new friend. So that was really cool. I have to say that year, if I look back, it was really cool.
Okay, so long story short, the appeal of coming to Japan was just being exotic and being somewhat kind of different, and kind of like a way to shoehorn you into.
I think so. On top of that, yes, I thought the Japanese will become a weapon to get into the industry.
Oh, a weapon. Okay.
The language is a weapon. You master something which other people don't have so much.
Not so wait, what did you master per se? Like Japanese film?
I could start. I started to talk Japanese, and oddly, my plan worked, because when I went back to Germany, and I didn't have an internship, I didn't have the place at the film school I want to go. I worked in a Japanese restaurant, and so there were Japanese customers coming also.
Okay.
And so that was just a side job during my studies. I had not graduated in Germany as well yet at that time, but. So I was doing this, and I was making, bringing people food and bringing them some beer. And then there were like one group of 4 people, I remember, on another table, and they looked over to me. And then they asked me, and they want to eat something. They heard that I have spoken Japanese. And so so yes, I said, yeah, I went a year to Hokkaido and I can speak Japanese. And then the one guy said, wow, but I have a Japanese wife, but she has never, I cannot speak a single word of Japanese, and so on. And so they were sitting there, and then I said to my colleague, and it was the first time, I have never really cooked, but I said, give me this table, and I will do sukiyaki, so the Japanese dish with the meat. So I explained to them the sukiyaki. Even I have never done it before, but they didn't know either, because they did not have much experience with Japanese. And so I was doing that, and I was talking. And then at the end, one guy told me, yeah, he's a film producer. And the other guy was, the guy with the Japanese wife was Michael Ende, who is like famous for the Never Ending Story. So he wrote the Never Ending Story and Momo. And the producer said, please call me the next day in the morning. I will get an internship. And so I got my first internship. So my Japanese plan, it really had worked out. And it got me into the industry. It is really true. And I did subtitle work later on. So it really worked. The plan, I think it worked, because it's a special knowledge.
How many years was that? That was like around...
And that was around 1990. So in the early 90s. That was around the early 90s, yes.
Okay, wow.
1990, 91, because at 93, I came back to Japan. So everything worked out, and then I was ready to go, and so yes, that brought me back to Japan, actually.
Huh, okay. So just the reading a book about Eisenstein.
Yes.
And, and then him talking about Japanese characters. Do you remember what the characters were, or what movie they're from?
I think wow, I forgot. He had some complicated one, but one thing which I don't know if it was in his book, but when I remember that, it comes to me, it's like if you have a tree and a man. So the sign for man, and you have a tree, and you have him combined with the tree, it means like resting or sleeping. Okay. And so that kind of like that works. So you have man and tree, and then the meaning man and tree means like, okay, maybe if it's a hot day, you lie down by the tree and you take a rest or you take a nap. So yasumu is nap, and it's the combination between man and tree. So that works in this way, because the idea was that if he takes a shot of something and he combines it with something else, it gets a meaning which is not seen in both of the shots.
Okay. So yeah, for some background to our audience just joining us, Sergei Eisenstein is a famous Russian filmmaker who's best known for what movie is best? Ivan the Terrible. What has he done?
Yeah, that's very famous. Strike, and then most famous is Battleship Potemkin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the one I've seen. Yeah. Yeah, so he was known for that. So wait, this I'm guessing it's like a filming technique. Is this is what you've learned?
Yes,
you have no memory of what movie it was from or where the source of it originally comes from.
You mean the with the Japanese character?
Yeah, with the Japanese character.
So he was trying to explain what he was doing when he does the editing of a movie.
Okay.
And his idea was that if you have two different shots, and usually like in American films and so, they should be kind of linked together, and then they should follow a story. But Eisenstein's ideas was, I give you shot 1, and then I give you shot 2, and in your mind, there's a reaction which gives you something which is not seen in both of the shots. That's very interesting, and it's like a clash. It's a clash of two ideas which spark a third idea. And in his movies, he has that sometimes, but it's maybe not so easy to understand. So I remember, for example, he had in one of his, I think that movie is called October, and you can see like leaders, so statues of leaders, and then you see religious symbols, and they are mixed against each other. And the idea is that if you, one idea about how to interpret it is that, leaders, like political leaders, they often assume religious objects and religions to enforce their power on other people, to submit other people to them. So they assume these things and they say, oh, I'm from God, and I'm using that symbol, and that symbol connects to people. So using religious symbol to kind of like put dominance or dominate other people they lead. So that was probably idea in one of his films, and that's the clash. So you had religious symbols and you had the leaders, as figures, and then they clash these images. That's almost a 3-minute montage where it's like, it was really crazy, and many people get confused when they watch that. But I found that very interesting. And if you know what he wrote, you might have a better idea as when you watch it. When you watch it, it might be a bit harder to understand. If you just watch it and you have no knowledge about how he thinks, how he ticks, then it is harder maybe to watch, or maybe not to watch, but maybe to make some meaning out of or sense in what he filmed there. But I found
Well, he's like the master of the montage.
Yes, that is right. Yes.
So I guess what I'm more curious about is like what this Japanese film or this, I guess, filmmaking or storytelling philosophy, or so you have no memory of what it's called or where it's from, or
what do you mean, like
the origin behind this? Like, where is this? I mean, like, because I know you weren't from Eisenstein,
yes,
but you said you have no memory of like what the concept's called, or
no, this is called the montage of attraction. It's not from Japan.
Oh, okay.
He just
not from Japan.
He was interested in Japanese signs and kanji, but it's not from Japan.
Oh, okay, I understand now. I see.
Yeah, so that he just applied that, and he explained it along Japanese signs, his ideas. So he was using Japanese language, but it's not a Japanese concept. It's his concept, and it's called montage of attraction, or clashing montage, or sometimes intellectual montage. So people call it different names, but he called it like attraction montage, or montage of attractions. So there's a clash. So it's like a clash of two images, and then create a new idea. That is his theory.
And that was kind of the instigator, or the thing that started or kindled your interest in Japan.
Yes, because I just, per coincidence, I just read that book where he's explaining it, and I thought, oh wow, Japanese science, some Japanese characters, they're quite interesting. And I thought, wow, there's not people who can actually read it. So I thought, that's maybe an idea,
So in Germany at the time, what was the appeal of Japan? Do you remember, or have any?
What do you say? At that time, I think there were, first of all, there were not many interested in in Japanese culture. For example, there was a big gap when I joined the university. Another reason why I stuck with Japan, I started with Chinese and Japanese actually. So I learned a little bit of Chinese as well. And Chinese was just so crowded, man. Everybody wanted to study Chinese. So when I looked, there's no tuition. So that means sometimes classes are packed. For example, there's not like classes which we have at Temple, where you like with 10 or 15 or 20 students, but there's like, if it's a popular, what do you say, if it's a really popular course or something like that, in like economy or something like that, there can be you in a big auditorium and there's like 2,000 people and you cannot see even the teacher because in your space there's like 20 people who block your sight. So you're lucky you hear a little bit his voice from the microphone and you make some notes, and that can happen. That's the extreme case. But Chinese, I mean, you have a language course and there's like 60, 70 people in the language class. So you have not a chance to say a single word the whole time. So you never really learn it. You don't have like, if I say the sentence, the teacher, if I'm lucky, I can say maybe 1 or 2 sentences per semester. That's not how you learn a language. So Japanese was cool because nobody wanted to do it. There were like maybe 6 or 7 people in the course.
Oh,
that was really small at that time. And because it was also attractive.
Okay, so I'm guessing around this time, this is like around the early 90s, the 80s.
Yes,
this is back when like Japan was like almost
mid of 80s. Yes,
before it hit the bubble.
Yeah, it was bubble. It was bubble, and so
was it?
Cliche, yeah, it was in the mid of the bubble then. Because when I started studying Japanese, it was 1985.
Okay.
So that's still bubble actually, but it was not so much. I mean, it was in Germany. I would say the image was really exotic, maybe. So maybe there was like high tech. That's a keyword. So like, oh, great technology. Of course, every German know that German cameras were killed by Japanese cameras. That being said, if you do photography and so on, they were completely taking over the market, except of Leica, which nobody could buy because they're so expensive. Right. They kept for a long time, but how can you afford that? That was such a world apart from me. So, but I know, okay, there's Pentax and there's Olympus and there's Canon and so on, and these are pretty good cameras. And what I say, so there was an image that Japan is, first of all, faster and better in technology, which is interesting because Germans are so, what is it, the cliche, and it's a little bit, there's a truth behind each cliche, that you kind of like, it is so stubborn. Germany does not like so much changes. They like things you can use for 20, for 30 years. I mean, you can buy German cameras still, and they still work. I mean, not saying that the Japanese, they don't work. Japanese are also very good. But Japanese, they, what they say, they kicked Germany out of many markets because they're fast and, what they say, they are not afraid of the danger which could be implied in creating something new. So Germans is kind of, first of all, they have a kind of negative approach. It's kind of like, when I create something like this, what could happen? Could it be a bad influence for the children, or could it be like this? And the Japanese, they just do it, and they think about the problems later. And what is an example for that is, for example, computers. I mean, German, how do you know any German computer?
No.
You see, and Germany is also a high-tech country, but they completely got lost on computers because you don't build a computer which lasts for 30 years, because technically in half a year, the computer will be old. So you have to create...
Well, that's if you like you buy a crappy computer. Maybe like a nice MacBook might last you
right. But
5
still,
years.
It goes fast. So every year, what do you say, your core or whatever of the computer is old. And you have likely to get a new one if you do some professional work or like editing software and so on. And German stuff is kind of like, wow, you want to use it forever. So it doesn't fit for computers as well. And then German, of course, are concerned, oh, Jesus, if we have the internet, what can happen? And you have that attitude still a little bit in the EU. Like the last law, I don't know if you heard about that. There were like big protests in Germany because they want to control who is uploading something.
Oh, Article 13.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. And it's kind of like always the approach, oh, Jesus, what could happen? How is it dangerous? And so on. And what I say that is not completely wrong, because there's many bad things happening with technology. But if you have that attitude, it's tough to make a good business out of it. And Japanese people, their approach is playful, I would say, if I say that. So they have a playful approach. So first we do it, and if something happens, then maybe we correct it. But first of all, we make it and we throw it out, and we throw it out on the market. Remember this? I don't know. I mean, you're much younger, but the Walkmans.
I know Walkman. Remember that one? That was around.
Whoa! So they come with the Walkmans, and Germans, of course, were thinking, oh, Jesus, when you have a Walkman and you listen, first of all, the ear damage could be there. A second is maybe you don't hear the traffic, so you have traffic accidents. They were thinking about the problems first. So they never made any good Walkmans, even if the Walkmans became a big hit, you know. And this is the difference in the attitude which I can feel. And maybe for Germans, then what they say, going back to it, yeah, there's an attraction in Japan that is kind of high tech, that it's a bit playful, you know. So maybe that's cool to go, you know, if you're innovative and want to try something new. That might be a country where you have the chance. Interestingly, of course, you know that business-wise, Japanese people are also pretty conservative. They're playful what they bring out on the market, but if you have meetings, they are not so playful at all. Eh?
Right. Well, they just seem to last forever, and
yes,
in a very monotone language. But
Yes.
Okay, so let me get a bit of an idea, or as I say in the show, paint myself a picture, because it's always about somebody's life story. So, okay, so you came to Japan, and then you graduated from a both graduate school and, I guess, a regular university here, and that's when you made your first film?
Yeah, that's right.
That time, was it during school, or was it after?
It was during school. I started working on my graduation project.
That was Turns of the Wheel, is that correct?
Yeah, that's Turns of the Wheel. Yes, that's right.
Do you still show that film in your classes at Temple University?
Very rarely, but occasionally I do a reference or something like that. Yes, but yes, very rarely I show it. Yes.
Why do you say very rarely? Is it because of the content involved?
For example, yes.
The only thing I remember, because I remember you showed it in our class when we had. I can't remember what class it was.
I think it's the videography.
Was it videography?
Yes.
I remember
the videography. Yes.
It's always in videography class. Okay. Yeah. The only thing I remember about it is that it was dark, and there was a bunch of naked people in it, and Shinya Tsukamoto goes to not Shinya Tsukamoto, the guy who's in Shinya Tsukamoto's Iron Man, the lead, shows up to a graveyard, if anybody knows that film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
That's all I remember about it. But I remember it being very interesting, and it had a lot of vignettes of like a bunch of different characters.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What was the inspiration behind this? Was it just kind of like random ideas you came up with, or
no? There is like a Japanese, poetry. So now, if since I was talking about Eisenstein, I also have my own concept. So when I say it's similar, there's something which is called renku, and this is like, if I super oversimplify it, it's a chain poetry of several haikus.
Okay.
It's not really in the haiku, but it has the haiku rhythm in it. You can find a haiku actually. And so you have like different, if I oversimplify it, so it means you have a haiku A, a haiku B, a haiku C. And every time when you change a haiku, there's a new meaning. So it's very similar to that clashing of montage theory. So that was something I was feeling comfortable. When I read about the haiku, I thought, okay, I want to make a movie which has, not so Eisenstein had like shot A, shot B. So I have like haiku 1, haiku 2, haiku 3, and I keep the Japanese rhythm. My first plan was really to have it in the 5-7-5 7-7 rhythm. So 7.
Wow, I did not notice that at all. Okay.
I tried to do that, but it was so hard because first of all, the tapes I got from Sony, there was some damage in it. So I had like little pixelations in the frame. So I had to sometimes use a shot I didn't want to use, or edit around something where there's like a tape damage, unfortunately. So that was the first thing, so which drove me a bit away. So I couldn't keep it as strictly as I wanted, but it still has the position. So you have like poem number 1, poem number 2, and that's where you have all these vignettes, because they're actually little poems which I created on storyboard. They are not like poems which I wrote down in words, but I thought in storyboards, I thought in shots. So I shot always, when my storyboard was always 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. There was a rhythm in the shots along my storyboard, and along that I filmed it. But then when I edited, I had to break that because it didn't work, because of, first of all, the tape damage, and sometimes it just was a bit dry. So I re-edited actually one time. So the first version was closer to that. The second version, which I did after I graduated, so I re-edited everything, and I added a few scenes and replaced like 2 scenes which I didn't like so much, because they didn't look so professional. And so I replaced a few scenes, and then I worked another half a year on it, and I re-edited the whole thing, and then it became something on its own, I think. So it's a little bit away now from the actual rhythm which I had. It still has the content, but it moves smoothly, much smoother forward, I think, than the first version. The first version was a bit dragging. It wasn't fast. It was also 5 minutes longer. That's significant. If the movie is just like 30 minutes long, 5 minutes more or less, that makes a big difference. So now it's 25. It was 33. And so it moves really fast, I think.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Did anybody notice this, that you were trying to do the haiku method in terms of, or trying to translate that to film? Did anybody take note of this?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that there's a testament, or there's something that exists of it online, so people can know that.
The Japanese, the big mistake I made was that I probably, when people were asking me to write a little bit about the film for film festival or something like that, I wrote that, and then the Japanese audience was very shocked, because they thought it is a traditional haiku, maybe talking about, I don't know, the frogs in the park and the rain coming or something like that. And you know that some naked people are coming in my movie, and so it was completely different, and there were foreigners in it and Japanese in it and so on. And it was telling something about Japanese culture. It was using Japanese culture for inspiration of the idea, but it wasn't saying anything about Japan. And people, Japanese people, when they read it's haiku and this and that, and they think, oh, Karl is saying something about Japanese people, and Japanese people are, I don't know, converting into naked foreigners or whatever. I don't know what they thought, but they didn't like it. That was really interesting. So they didn't. I had so much hope for this film, and most Japanese people, they just absolutely didn't like it. They found it kind of grotesque and weird and scary, and so they didn't get it at all.
So I mean, I really quite enjoyed it. I remember watching and thinking, man, this is awesome. I mean, I thought it was great, but at least my memory of it.
Take it in a different way. They can feel the humor in it. For example, Japanese, they do not have a feeling for irony or sarcasm. There's a lot of sarcasm in it. And foreigners, when I was showing it in the cinemas, foreigners, they start laughing, and so they got it. But the Japanese people, they thought, geez, maybe it's saying something about me. And then they didn't like it, because, oh, no, I'm not like this, you know. And that's what the movie was about. But, yeah, probably because of my description, it led them to think stronger to Japanese culture than it actually is.
This short film, it's not actually, you can't see it anywhere. It's not online or anything.
I have it on Vimeo.
It's on Vimeo.
Yes, it's on Vimeo. Yes, you
can. I'll link that down below so people can know what we're talking about.
Great. Yes.
I see. Okay. Yeah. No, it's definitely worth your time. You should go check it out if you haven't seen it already. You haven't made a short film since. You've only made like documentaries, or you've like been a producer. Or
yes, that's true. I have worked in many. I was like a jack of all trades, more or less. I have directed actually more or less 2 more projects after that. but they were like documentaries. And another was more like an educational, educational program. It was a comedy series, but it was made for EDTV for Japanese, who study German. And then I have worked a lot of like line producer, which means like I'm helping a director who shoots in Japan to make the movie here.
Right.
So, which goes from helping with the script, introducing agencies, actors, locations, do all the logistics, take care what kind of equipment will be used, make sure what kind of crew members are Japanese and which are foreign, and so on.
Right. Because if you go over to your IMDb page, you're listed first as producer with 8 credits. So.
Yeah. So I have done a lot of that. And recently, because of my temple teaching schedule, which is super tight because we have trimesters actually. That means there's never a break. And they actually, from a professor, they ask a year in advance that if you want to take a semester off, you have to give them more than a year before the schedule. But in movies, there's so many changes. I cannot tell.
Yeah.
If I can make the movie actually in that time then. And so this was really hard, but I have like some clients I have worked for a long time, and I got 2 jobs as assistant director more recently. So I did two mainstream German movies as assistant director, first assistant director. And so so I work with this German film director called Doris Dury, and I work with her since 1998.
That's the Enlightenment Guaranteed.
Yes, right. That was our first project, and she has done since then. I mean, there was 5 projects and 1 which wasn't made because of the earthquake. But so I worked with her on all of these 6 projects she has done in Japan. And so the last 2, I was like her right hand. There's another right hand, but there are 2 right hands. I don't want to lie. She has also a person who is like a dramatic advisor. So she's now she's now doing the role of the associate producer or co-producer. And so she has worked with her longer because they go way back when she started doing her first movie. And so that's Ruth, and I'm good friends with her as well. And so then Ruth, she took that new position, and I took Ruth's position because she was basically the first assistant director and always working with stories. So I kind of replaced Ruth, who kind of stepped up in a way, but we both kind of like the protectors of Doris projects. And Ruth is doing it even in Germany, so I'm just doing it here when Doris comes to Japan. But she comes quite often. That's nice. No?
Right. Okay. Yeah, for our audience out there, he's talking about a other filmmaker named, what's her name? Ruth?
Doris Dury. Dury. And then
Doris
Ruth, she's the producer.
Okay, yeah. So
2 German women. No?
Who often come to Japan and film projects with Karl. But actually, something I wanted to talk about is, I don't think I've ever asked you this, is how did eventually did you wind up at Temple University teaching?
Okay.
Actually,
to make a long story, actually it's quite simple because I did film festivals. I try to help independent filmmakers to get their movie shown, because I was one of them. No, I thought, Jesus, my movie, it cannot be shown in Japan too often. So let's work with film festivals. And they were like, it was starting when, digital came up. So there were more venues. It was easier. You didn't have to have film as a role. You could project movies using video and then later digital screenings and so on. So there was a few film festivals I have coordinated before that. And so I thought, okay, let's create my own. So I was doing a film festival, which is called Tokyo Short Film Festival. And it's quite interesting because there's Tokyo Shorts.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds a lot like that one.
Exactly. And we were first because that director, we screened his movie. It was the first screening. We had the founder of Tokyo Short Films screened his first movie at our short film event. And then he created his own film festival because he was so inspired. And actually he took 2 of our staff, I think, in the beginning. So there was a little incident. So our film
more than just a little incident. Yeah.
there was a little bit a problem, but he's a nice guy. It's just stuff like that happens. So we lost
He's a nice guy. You can say that about Ted Bundy, though.
No. And so we were doing this, and it became Tokyo Short Shorts film. And then I created another one, which then I did completely on my own. It was called Tokyo Interdependent Film Festival. And it ran for like maybe 2 years or something. But we had screenings quite often. So that was cool. So maybe like every 3 months. So we were at Blue Note, and then we were in a couple of...
Blue Note, I've been there.
And so it was kind of cool. But I said the other people who joined the short shorts, they want to do it more for business. I have to say that. I mean, really nice guys, but they were thinking about more, rather than just showing people's movies, which are not shown usually, they thought about how can we charge? And then they bring in, short shorts. I mean, they have quite mainstream stuff. There's like short films done by famous directors.
Yeah, a lot of mainstream stuff.
More commercial. And I didn't like that in a way, so I was not sad that this ended then. But I tried to make my own one, and it was running for a while. And maybe if I wouldn't have gone to Temple, maybe I would still run it. The thing is just it became too busy. But it was funny because there's coming one person from Temple to me, and he said he wants to create something like a film festival at Temple. So that was Kyle Cleveland. I think I can name the...
Kyle Cleveland.
Kyle, okay. Yes. And he actually decided later to import Next Frame Film Festival to, which is the American Student Film Festival. So the first film festival idea in Temple was that they show the American films and they do Japanese subtitles for it. And it was quite big. So Kyle started that somehow. And so I had met Kyle because he was a guest of my film festival here and there. And then I was doing another film festival because they were asking me if I can MC it. So I was just MC of that. It was called Res Digital Film Festival. It was one of the very, very first American digital film festivals. So I was doing the host. And then I bumped into Shinya Watanabe. And,
another teacher at the school.
Another teacher. So I bumped into a couple of Temple people. Also, probably somewhere also wrong car. I remember I have met him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So he's the boss of communications department there. And so I met some Temple people. And then actually Shinya, I can maybe reveal that. So actually Shinya gave me a hint that if he said to me, well, you look like a decent guy, and I know I was doing my own business, that I have practical experience, but also I have a degree, and so because if you teach, you have to have a degree, no? So he liked that idea, and he said, why don't you try to apply for teaching position at Temple? And I thought, wow, at that time I had like little issues because some clients were not paying me. I was a little bit stressed.
Right. Yeah, no, it's steady income, right?
Yes. So I thought, okay, that might be an interesting idea. And maybe of course, the ideal which I never got was that I thought I can do both. I can teach, and then I can also do my movies, which is not so easy because I don't have the time when I teach. That's the problem. Temple has so many courses and so many. There's no holidays almost. In the holidays, they ask you for doing a workshop, which is hard to refuse. I mean, this is my income. So it's kind of like, okay, since I couldn't build something up there, okay, so let's do the workshop. And so I'm kind of like doing a lot of stuff. And it blocked me a bit from filmmaking, I have to say. So it had like it was not like I expected it to be in that way. But,
right.
I took the chance. And they hired me as an adjunct. And then what was of course great is that you got many courses because there are not so many film teachers. So I could run a lot of courses, which helps you if you're adjunct. You have no social security and so on. So it helps if you have more courses. You make a bit more money. So of course I was never against running many courses, no? And I got into this pace, so I'm kind of like, okay, I do as much as I can, if I have the chance. And that was the connection.
Interesting.
It was a hint by a friend or now friend, no? And at that time, so Shinya, I didn't know him very much, but he was also involved in something in this RES Film Festival. I remember because that was the time I have met him like maybe 2 or 3 days in a row. So he was doing something, maybe Japanese program or something, and I was doing the MC. And that was it, you know. And Kyle introduced me very likely, maybe, you know, who was a customer of my film festival. And actually, also I supported actually the next film festival right away, because Kyle, at that point, he started, I think, the second one. They wanted to have some Japanese program. So I delivered some movies from our program to theirs. So there was another connection. So then, what do you say? I was actually in the Temple Film Festival right from the start. And this is, now I'm the director of the Student Film Festival. So it's kind of like, yeah, I was involved since the very, very beginning. One can say that.
Okay, I see. Well, that's interesting.
Yes, yes.
So, as a former student of both your film festival
Yes.
and videography and B-movie class, one thing I've noticed is that maybe like from teaching, maybe you've learned a few things from your students. Like
Yes.
I remember when I mean, not to generalize here, but I guess I am generalizing, is that usually when, you know, I guess you can generalize us. I'm okay with it. But like when the Japanese students would make films in your class, they'd always be these kind of darker, kind of depressing, kind of morose stories. Whereas like the foreigners that were in your class, it's always about, wow, I'm in Japan and everything's so cool. Is that wrong? Am I wrong about this?
No, maybe. What I say, I have changed a bit, but it depends quite on the mixture of students, of course. You know, I have also people who grow up here, and what do you say? They are not Japanese, but they lived in the Japanese culture since they were kids and so on. They make a different style again. But if we overgeneralize, yeah, you can say that when Japanese people do a movie, it's usually quiet. It's usually, what do you say, they're searching for their identities. Sometimes the movie a bit more abstract and darker. The tone is darker and slower. The pace is darker. If we overgeneralize, that's definitely a tendency. I have to say that Japanese filmmakers, maybe they're more aware, they want to create art, and they stronger maybe that they want to have a topic which is related to a conflict in themselves or something.
Okay.
And like foreigners, they tend to be more extroverted. That means they think, how can I maybe make a film which is entertaining for the audience and has some action and some fun? So they are definitely lighter. And that's maybe quite interesting for the film festival to watch, you know, the different
kind of good mix of things.
Yes.
What is there anything in general you feel like you've really learned from your students at all? Or
yeah, there's a lot. First of all, I learned better. I hope so. Maybe in this interview I was going a bit over the top here too, but I learned to better explain things. That's one thing. And then
no, I've learned that too from teaching.
That is great. No? The other thing is they keep me up to date about topics, or what do you say, like their generation is completely different from my generation, but what do you say, I have an idea what makes them concerned and what they are thinking about. And what do you say, there are sometimes like topics or news or something I would not realize, but through my students they bring this up, or they tell me, oh, this movie is really great, watch this, you know, have you seen this? And I kind of like, oh, I never heard about that one, you know, and that kind of stuff. So it drives you forward. I think you learn a lot, actually. So by being with them in that fairly casual atmosphere we create in the classroom, I don't know, the other teachers may not have that. I'm not sure what other teachers are doing, but I would say in my course, the atmosphere was fairly casual. Do you agree? Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, no, it's always very casual. So, yeah.
It was fairly casual. And when you say there's some talking beyond the class content, not necessarily in the class time, but often students hang out with me. And I have also, if I have the time, you know, often my class stops, let's say at 2 o'clock, but my students, they still want to talk about something. So it's, what is it? The others who have a class, they go. But then if there's nobody coming into the classroom, some of the students, they stick around for half an hour. They ask me some questions and so on. And through that, they tell me what they like or something. So just by listening to that, you also learn, because there's many things I probably would be kind of like, okay, now I'm too old, or I wouldn't care, probably I wouldn't care. So if you're just on your own, maybe I wouldn't care about this or that. But then they bring this up and and then, okay, this is a really interesting idea, or this is an interesting movie, or that's an interesting program, a software. I probably would have a harder time to deal with computer software and so on. They come to me, Karl, why don't you do this with the Google Drive, or why don't you put the documents on the Google Drive? And so I kind of go, oh, okay, let's give that a try. Can you explain to me? So they explain me also, because sometimes with the new technology, at certain parts I'm behind maybe. So I know my editing program and so on, because that's a part of my job. But when it comes to, I don't know, Snapchat or WhatsApp, I would never use that.
No, I don't use WhatsApp. I don't like WhatsApp. Snapchat, I don't use either. Maybe Instagram stories is maybe a thing, but that's
Instagram. I started Instagram, and it was kind of because of my students. I started with Twitter, but I didn't like it, so I gave up on Twitter.
Unless you're good at Twitter's only good unless you're good at starting fights with people and winning fights. So nowadays, anyway.
So I did not like that too much. But Instagram, great, and so they teach me here and there. I did not get hooked up with Snapchat as much. So most of my students, there was a generation of students. Now it goes really fast. Like 2 years later, they're a bit different, like us. So they are like maybe
that's interesting.
But in the third year, they are different completely. And so I had like one time they were all doing movies about Snapchat, and Snapchat was really important for them. I don't think this year, I don't think they're so much into it. But 3 years ago, everybody was doing Snapchat. I kind of like, and I have never heard it. So they explained to me, and then I learned, okay, Snapchat is this and that. So I learned from them as well. I pick it up here and there,
And now nobody talks about it.
Yes.
So it's a fad. Okay.
In my friends, they wouldn't talk about that because they're in my age, So it makes me younger, maybe, because I get ideas from people who are unfortunately getting younger and younger. So the distance becomes larger actually. When I started teaching, I was just like maybe 10, 15 years old. But now they could be my grandchildren or something. If I think about them, but almost they could be or something. So it's getting to that if they're very young or something.
Right.
Generations away from me. That is crazy. I can almost not imagine. But since I'm doing it every day, I don't feel it as much. So it keeps me young. I think that's some great positive aspect, because I'm always surrounded by young people. So you cannot, you cannot do this like Japanese movie style and search for your age, identity, and something. I have no time for that. I mingle with them, and yes, I think through that I'm fairly up to date with what is going on.
Like what kind of stories are you seeing from them nowadays? Has the storytelling changed at all? Is it still about identity? And
from the movies we had recently, they are more family dramas. That's interesting. So maybe something is going on in the family, because maybe there's maybe parents are more selfish than before or something. So
is this the Japanese or both the?
It is like I would say I have like last semester I had 2 Asian projects. So they are not Japanese, but one person was grown up in Japan and the other person is Vietnamese, actually. And so there were 2 projects. And before that, I had also one African American and one American. So it's quite different per semester. There's not so many projects because if it comes to that level, of course, it's usually about 10 students. So that makes 2 groups out 5. And everybody can do a presentation. So I don't know if I have changed that a bit since your time, but so everybody does a presentation and then people vote on which presentation is the best and which one they want to join. So hopefully they do not fight among each other when they join their free will, but there's still trouble. I tell you that. That makes me really kind of like, sometimes it's stressful, because they they have artistic differences. So there's still issues. But basically everybody joined on their own will, one group. And then they start to make this project. I can just say that, oh yeah, it was interesting because the American project I had, that was a pretty dark one. It's about a guy who commits suicide in the forest. That was a dark one.
Oh boy. Well, was this before or after the Logan Paul incident in the suicide forest?
That was.
It was during or after?
It was kind of during, yes. I think that was
okay.
During.
All right, great idea, guy. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea. Who knows? I mean, I should prejudge.
Well, the movie was good. I have to say that. It made it into the TUJ Film Festival, and it won the second prize. So I was quite proud. It was pretty good, and the director.
There are prizes now. I don't think there was prizes when I joined. Was there?
No, it's true. Since maybe 3 years now, we have awards. And they're quite attractive. They're not bad. They're not great, but it's like, what do you say? The first prize wins 20,000 yen in gift tickets. So, and then the second prize, we have like for best cinematography, we have a sponsor. So it's also 20,000. And then, what do you say? I'm not sure, but maybe 10,000. So there's 10,000 for other prizes.
Really? There's a money reward.
So there's one kind of like, they're gift cards. Because of the administration, but you can turn them into money,
I guess if you really wanted to, yeah.
If you really want to, or you can buy something with the gift cards, And so there's really a bunch of awards. It almost totals. I think we are almost at a budget of 60,000 in total for awards. So there's like first award, second award, third award, audience award, and cinematography sponsor award. So 5 awards actually, and then there's a little raffle for the audience. So it's really quite nice.
I see. So do you still teach the videography class to this?
And I still do that, yes. But next year we have a new system at TUJ, and so that will have a different title and will be slightly different. But it is still basically it's the same course because we are shifting. We will have now an official production track. We didn't have that. We were running productions, but it were like film and media arts, and now they call it, oh God. Media.
For the record, this is not sponsored by Temple University. Just let you know. This is sponsored by them.
Yes, but so we changed that. So to make it simple, so it will be new, and it has a more production. What do you say? It will be now. You have to take, if you do production, you have to take videography class. And when you were doing it was. It was
optional, right?
It was optional. Yes, that's the difference.
I see. Okay. All right. So something I really do need to ask, because I remember when I took your videography class, we watched a bunch of other students' projects.
Yes.
I remember one that we watched that you thought wasn't particularly good, but I kind of liked it. I thought it had charm. I don't remember the title of it. It was about two foreigners in Japan, and they're struggling with their lives, and one of them wanted to get run over by a train or something, and I can't remember. I remember I enjoyed that one. I mean, but you kind of really tore it apart. Like,
yes, it was Tokyo Suicide. Wasn't
that's what the name of it was. I thought it was cute, but I don't know.
It was cute. It wasn't. What would you say? It's too long time ago to say. I mean, it was actually. I think we took it into the film festival, didn't we?
Yeah, you did. I remember. It's on the DVD. If you go to the library, you can check it out and see it.
What do you say? I mean, it had technical flaws, and it had flaws in the acting and so on, which is not easy to avoid if you do a student film. That being said, so I thought it had flaws, and when I would show it, I would kind of like maybe show it with the stance that the people who do the next movie, so probably your class, do avoid the same flaws. So that might.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
Too critical, but basically.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess that's important.
I mean, it was. You can see it was a bit hurried when it was shot. So there are like scenes with like talking. The editing was a bit awkward. I still remember that, and it took a bit away because it has a bit of a serious topic and a serious tone, but then it was sometimes a bit funny, maybe where it wasn't so intended to be so funny. And I remember, and it was pretty, what do you say, the filming, they did not have lights or something, so they shot in pretty darkness, and you couldn't see that or that. So it was more like probably, what do you say, to point out that this is a learning experience, so that, what do you say, when you do your movie, okay, when you shoot in the darkness, you cannot see things. You say it in extreme way, but that, I remember that was quite the case. You could not see some of the scenes, but it had like entertainment level, and what do you say, it still made it in the film festival. So that's actually, what do you say, a sign that as a movie it's not so bad.
Well, I mean, I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room. Like my film, Daikonashi, yeah. I didn't even finish it, and it didn't get into the film festival. I mean, I put both movies in the film festival. Neither of them made it, but you still have a copy of it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, you don't show that to students, do you? You can if you want to.
No, I don't.
That's like an example of what not to do.
Oh Jesus! Never thought of. Maybe I should. Really? Now you give me some ideas.
Yeah, well, you have my permission, because I mean, yeah, what a disaster that was.
You know that you automatically give the permission by taking the class, because it's written in the syllabus.
Is it? Okay. Well, yeah, I think I knew that already. So,
but no, I didn't. Actually, these days I show less and less, to say the truth.
Oh, really? Because you don't want to publicly shame people. I mean, you're fine with doing it. We're friends, so.
No, but it's just like, yeah, maybe people, what they say, they do not have actually time to watch anymore, so they do their group work, and there's not much time, so I can maybe show one or two. So maybe a good example and a bad example. So maybe for the bad example, maybe the Daikonashi. Yeah. But the thing is, yeah, I have one which was actually a good movie, but it has such a horrible sound. So I use that here and there, because there's this is such a good film, but it is ruined. There's the climax scene, and they talk in front of a fountain. Can you imagine what happens when you talk?
Can't you ADR it? Can't you like shoot it somewhere? Well, I guess that's really hard.
And they, of course, unfortunately, I think they pointed with the mic into the direction of the fountain and not the opposite. So you can hear almost nothing. And it's like it's the climax scene where somebody reveals that he's actually loving that person, and then you cannot hear it. So there's kind of a triangle love story. And I found the movie really great, and we brought it in the film festival, but it was only okay because we did Japanese subtitles, and you can
I see.
So for Japanese people it's maybe more enjoyable, but it definitely has that flaw. And I always show my students that scene, so not the whole movie, but I show them that scene, and that they have just to be careful when they position their mic, so that you don't position the mic into the direction where there's a noise source. So you can't see these flaws. I have to say, if I would do any Hollywood movie and so on, they do not have these kind of flaws.
Right. So, well, yeah, of course. They have like hundreds of people working for them.
Exactly. So the thing is, of course, the advantage of taking a student film and show this flawed part is that you really can see an example of what happens, and then it's much more frightening for your production, because in the Hollywood, if you compare yourself to Hollywood, you have no chance. But
but they're a group of professionals, so it's kind of this is amateur hour, so
it's true, but yeah, so then it would be, I feel it would be disencouraging to show like a Hollywood movie and say how this is smoothly made. I think it's more encouraging if I see a work, okay, this is a student movie which works very well, and this is a student movie which has some flaws, and maybe I be aware, these flaws, they are avoidable, but there are troubles I might run into, for example, like scheduling, or I don't have the time, for example, in the end. So first they used all tripod, and then they don't have time anymore, and the light is going dark, and in the end it's everything handheld, and then you edit it, and then you have tripod handheld. It doesn't have a structure. Like these kind of flaws, if you see them, they're really easy to understand. Oh my god, yeah, this is, if you watch this clip, what do you think? And I'll let them answer. You know, and they say, oh, wow, that sound. And this, what is really funny, I have to say that my students also are super critical at the stage they have not produced their own movie. So usually they tend to tear apart a movie, even it's quite a good student film. They say, oh my God, and that is bad, and the editing is bad, and the light is strange. And then they make their own, and then they regret completely. Because
well, that's
something good as that, actually.
looking in a mirror right now.
Exactly, but they were not aware of it.
Right.
You know, and these flaws, if you know a bit in advance, at least you can try to avoid them.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you run into that, and you just like, so I had that really actually, because they were very critical about a really good movie of one of my students. They say, oh, that could be done so much better. And then they end up and they could almost not finish it. So it was kind of an unfinished one. So occasionally I have that, but I have to say it's getting rare. Eh? So you are in the, what do you say, the special group with the Daikon Ashi, with the unfinished project. No? Nowadays, I kind of really force them that they, whatever happens, you have to finish it. And so I get more projects which are finished, or what do you say, kind of finished, let's say so. And so it's getting a bit better, but there's, of course, you struggle. I mean, it's clear everybody. I mean, in terms of the wheels, I was struggling.
Right.
I mean, I know the struggle. I have done it myself. No? And I want to say there were many scenes I was happy with, but there were many scenes I wasn't. That didn't turn out like I really want to have. And then I was stuck, and I was trying to edit around to say, and you cannot fix everything through the editing. That's another thing you must be aware of. When you do not shoot it correctly, the editing, you cannot fix. Often people believe I can do everything with the editing, but that's not true. No?
Never save it in post.
Yes. So you can't save it in post. And I tried, you know, and what I say, and I think I did it to a certain degree, what was possible. I took out flaws, but it took me so long time. It is not, what I say, work effective in a way. It's not a rational. This is just, then you do it for yourself. Fine, you can put in. It's not paid work, but if you would think in more rational terms, that you say, oh, you have to get over, and you can turn to the next project, for example.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Previous one and so on, because I wanted to make it better, and there were just limits. There were, of course, limits. Man.
Right. So let's talk about how long has the film festival been going on at Tempe University? It's been like over 10 years at least, right?
Oh, yes. That is, actually, we might be going into the 14th or 15th years.
Wow.
So, yes.
And it's free, so anybody can join the film festival.
Yeah, that's right.
Are there any future? I remember we were talking earlier off the record that you have some new projects you're working on.
Yes, so I was doing the first assistant director for Doris, and the movie is just released in Germany right now. So it's on in the cinema.
What's it called?
Dämonen und Tee means like demons and tea, and it's the sequel of the famous Hanami. So there was a movie called Hanami Cherry Blossoms, and that was a big hit. And so this is the sequel of it. So it's Cherry Blossoms 2, Demons and Tea, if I translate it into English. And it's
I see.
kind of romantic ghost story a bit.
Oh, I see. What was your involvement with it?
And I was first assistant director.
Oh, okay. I see.
That was intense work. And what do you say?
Yeah, I'm gonna say being assistant director, that's like you're being mom.
True.
Like, you know, directing everybody around, like saying, all right, you come over here, you do this, you do that, you know.
Yes. And what do you say? We were filming last year, actually, in summer. So it was super hot. That was that
Dude,
1 year.
That's awful.
It was so hot, you know, and we are shooting in one room.
Well, that must have been super difficult, because usually, like, when you're doing a job like that, you can't make mistakes, you know? Yeah. That's like, there's no room for making mistakes. Or at least when I was working with the former guest of the show, Norman England, on the ABCs of Death.
Yes.
I was assistant for the EPK electronic press kit, you know, like, you know what that is, right?
Yes.
And it's just like any sort of mistake you make on there, you get blamed for it. So and so yeah, learning about sets and being a part of a real set, opposed to just being an amateur, like when I was at Temple. It's like it's just so milestones different. Blew me away.
Yeah.
How well organized everything is. Like, man, this is what I have. This is what I'm up against. This is what I have to. This is what I have to go against. But yeah. Okay, so Demons and Tea.
Yes. And it was featuring the last role of Kiki Kiri, who is in Shoplifting. It's a really big
the Cordiata movie.
Yes, that's right. The old woman, that's her, né? And she was in her last role and her first role in a movie which is not Japanese but an international production. It was her first foreign film, and she was, when I say she was really, I mean, at that time she was already a bit fragile, but when she was in front of the camera, she was like, But after the camera, you can feel that she had to sit down here and there, and she didn't want to show to other people. She has that image, really she wants to be like anytime, like she was when she was young. You could feel that attitude. She really brought it in front of the camera. It was so hot. I thought about this poor, as a person, I thought about this poor old woman in a way, because it's so damn hot. I always said, oh, do you need some water? Do you need this or something? And she was always, no, I'm fine. She didn't want to really show. I think she could have needed it, no? But she pulled that off really, really well. And unfortunately, it was quite a shock. Just like 1 month and a half later, she passed away. And yesterday, by the way, day before yesterday, her husband also died. Ne? Uchida Yuya Uchida. It was just in the news. Like yesterday, I saw it in the news that her husband also passed away. So they were like so long.
Oh yeah, he did just pass away. That was her husband. Okay.
Her husband, yes. Yeah, so that's very sad, in a way. So I felt very sad because you have worked with her, and I have actually met him on a different opportunity. But I have worked with her, and you build a connection, and then you start to really care, So she's not an actress for me because I worked in a way, and you spoke to her, and that it was quite shocking that she didn't make it because she felt so. She tried to be so strong,
Okay.
She was really professional, I have to say. So that's a nice thing. What do you say? Maybe to see her in her last role. So in Japan TV, they always say the last movie was a Japanese one. By the way, they never talk about the German one. But I heard that some Japanese company might buy this movie, so it might be able to see it. The last one I did, a Japanese company didn't buy it, so it was never shown in Japan, except for the German Film Festival. So what do you say? The German Culture Center, they show it occasionally on like film festivals when they bring German films to some place, or in Fukuoka and so on. So they have shown German films, and it's in the German film selection. But except that, it was never released in cinema, so most people never saw it.
Oh, I see.
Problem. And then this one, it has a chance, because if you have a Japanese distributor, they probably will want to show it in the cinemas at some time.
Okay, so there is this film, and there's another one you're working on, or is that it?
And, 1 moment. So I have one thing but I don't know yet, so I can't really say very much.
Okay, you can't reveal too much. Okay, well,
reveal too much, it might not happen. So that's the problem. It might not happen. But I'm working with another German director, and he wants to make a movie in Japan, and it could be quite interesting. What I can reveal is that it is an action movie, and I haven't done that. I didn't have an
action movies. I imagine are pretty hard to do in Japan, but yeah,
that is the problem. So I helped him a bit with the script, because he sent me the script over, and so I had a look into the script, and I gave my comments and so on. And from the status he has, I think he could probably do it. The money and the funding and so on. I think it could become a project, but I'm not sure. There are like certain barriers, like the action, like you said. Where do we shoot this?
Well, yeah, because in Japan, it's like you can't just block off streets. You can't do that.
Maybe in the very countryside or something. But then again, maybe it shouldn't be in the countryside, and so on. So there are like certain struggles maybe to be overcome. So I don't know if it will be really happening, but I would just say that it is a director who potentially could get the budget and everything because he's quite successful in Europe. So that being said, so that would be interesting if I could grab some position in there. The other problem, of course, which I have is that I still have my teaching schedule. And since I don't know when this project will happen, I have a problem because the thing is I cannot just take off from TUJ. If it happens and he says, oh, well, yeah, let's shoot in February or something like that, and then I have to teach, I cannot.
You can't just drop everything you're doing. I don't think Temple would like that.
No, they will not like that at all. And the director will probably also not like it all that I can tell him, oh, yeah, have the weekends. So
yeah.
You can have me on Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe Tuesday and Thursday if I'm not teaching on that days. But that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So that is the other problem. So even if the project can happen, how much can I get involved? I don't also know. So I can't really say at that time a lot about it because it's not decided yet. I have been in an independent project actually also last year. So where I did camera and helped a little bit here and there. And I had also a little role, but there was a problem with the copyright. So they had like an actor who pulled out of the project and blocked the whole project. That was really bad. So I'm in the collateral damage because there was an issue between producer and actor. And then the actor says, you cannot show the movie. And everybody who worked, it's a finished film. And everybody who worked at it, your work is completely lost. That's the problem with the independent project, you know? You don't have maybe enough power to, to overcome if somebody sues you or you know, so it became a issue, you know? And it's somebody who said, who committed to the project in the beginning, but then pulled out after the shoot, and it is a big problem because it was a key role. It is not a big role, but it's a key role, and the name is mentioned here and there. And there's like we were always talking about that person, and when we did the first scene or something, that person got upset or something like that, and so it blocked the whole production. I don't know if I ever can see it. So I don't know. So I hope maybe privately I can see it was, but it's really a waste of energy and time, sadly.
Okay. Well, before I kind of have to wrap this interview up.
Okay, yes.
Before we do that, we had one question in the chat related to Temple University. If you don't mind answering this.
Yes.
A friend of the show, former guest of the show, actually too. The Andy-san says, I'm looking to study abroad at Temple, but I'm worried about my previous low grades when I dropped out in 2017 being a detriment to being admitted. How can I best raise my chances?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I mean, he should try just to apply.
Yeah, just keep trying to apply. That's all.
What do you say? Yes, definitely. And what do you say? I mean, we are moving to a new campus in.
Oh, right. When does that start?
And this will be by end of August. So the fall semester will be already on the new campus.
Are you looking forward to this?
Of course. That will be really interesting. Of course, now I'm not looking so much for because I have to pack all my stuff. Oh my God, you know. But then it will be much nicer because we have a real campus. Almost.
Yeah, indeed. Instead of just being in an office building.
Nice, yeah? And the thing is, what do you say? I think that with the move to the new campus, that student numbers, what do you say? Right now we are full of capacity. That means we cannot take more students than we already have, actually. So that might be stricter this semester or last semester. But if we move over there, so I would recommend he should try fall or spring semester coming up. So next year or this year fall or next year spring, I think the chance will be higher because we have more capacity to take more students.
Oh, really? Okay.
So maybe then always when that happens, I think it's probably very strict if you know, wow, I have more students than I have space. You have to make it stricter. But if you have more space than you have students, the chance will increase. And this is a chance because we will have a little bit more space. So maybe they don't have to be so super strict.
Yeah.
But I don't know how low his GPA really is and what's the trouble, but he can try it, you know.
Yeah, I guess keep trying, I guess, is all we can really say. Abel Rosario in the chat says, Carl's desk is a storage locker whose door has been busted off. It's not a question, that's just what he said. So, yeah.
But
anyway.
there's a storage locker, yes. There's a storage locker. And I was wondering the other day, a student asked me for a projector. So I lent the projector to the student. And then when I come back to my desk, it was in the storage locker. That was really interesting because I thought, how can he get it into the storage locker if I'm not there? So maybe Abel has a point. Right. You're really worrisome now.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe it's a coded message there for you, Carl. I don't know. All right, Carl. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, I'm fine. Thank you for having me, and I hope it was not too boring or confusing.
No. It was fruitful. I learned a few things about your film, and that I'll put in the description later.
Great. I give you the link for the turns.
Interesting. Yeah. If you could send that to me, I'll put it in below. Yeah, no, it was fruitful in the regard of I didn't know what kind of films students are making nowadays, because now that it's been like 10 years almost since I've been in Japan. So I imagine that the school's changed quite a bit since then. So it was interesting learning about what's popular, what the kids these days, you know.
I see you're coming into that too.
Yeah, no, getting there. Okay, then. So next week on the show is nobody for now. Hopefully there will be a schedule for the next Why Come Japan guest, and everything will be posted on either the Instagrams or the Twitters or Facebooks. All the information's down below. You know what to do. Hopefully. If you don't know what to do, I can walk you through it. Just send me a nice mail. And if you like this interview, be sure to support the channel, Patreon, blah, blah, blah. So, until then, I'm Radrey and
Carl. Thank you so much. Take care.
See you guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.